Hello everybody, it is Nico V here, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different on the channel. I'm going to be going over the Back for Blood November 2021 update. And the reason that is because I've just been very invested in Back for Blood. I think it's a very fun game. I think it's a good game. Certainly frustrating at times. But I've pretty much been addicted to it. Like, I've been playing it a lot, and I'm very invested into it right now. And when the game released, there were certainly some problems with it. There were bugs with it. Some people were complaining it was very unbalanced. But this update has been released now, the November 2021 update, and I'm just going to go over the patch notes very quickly. I'm not going to go over all of them because I actually just recorded a video of me doing that. It was 40 minutes long, and I don't think anybody wants to watch that. But maybe I'll upload it if enough people ask. So essentially, I want to just go over like the big points of this, and just to say it, I'm going to say right now that I think that this update nerfs melee builds a lot. It nerfs melee builds a lot, and it doesn't really balance the kind of unfair ridden stuff that players have kind of been experiencing. So I'll just get right into it. So right here, brings quality of life updates. It does do that. All cleaners are now immediately playable. I thought this was kind of a weird one because I thought that these four, that you don't start the game with them in terms of the story. Like, they're at the base at the time of the first four missions, but I think that's fine. I think that's cool. In-game voice chat can now be disabled. Completing any campaign chapter now unlocks all the previous chapters. These are all good quality of life changes. I almost said slice of life changes. I'm sorry. I've been watching too much anime. But yeah, so let's just get right into it. What I think, again, I'm gonna link all of these patch notes so you guys can read it for yourselves. I'm just gonna go into the big points, and I'm gonna start with the card updates because I think from this, I think this update not severely nerfs melee builds, but I don't think it's gonna be unnoticeable. So if you're a dedicated melee player, stick around, listen, and then if you disagree with me, feel free to say it. So let's look at the cards first. This is the big one I think everybody cares about. Card updates. Negative ammo capacity effect. Okay, I didn't even know this was a thing, so let's just continue. Okay, so you look at the stuff here. I'm going to leave it on screen. I don't want to read all of them, but we're going to look at things like batter up, right? Melee damage adjusted to 40% from 50%. Brazen. Stamina efficiency adjusted to 20% from 30%. Again, another kind of card that, because your stamina does, swinging the bat does use stamina, I think. Does it? Yeah, it does, right? I don't use melee weapons too often. This is actually a good change right here. Breakout. Decreased use time to 3 seconds from 4 seconds, because 4 seconds was just a little too long, And Breakout is I always thought Breakout was a good card in theory, but then when you use it, you just take way too much damage anyways, so I think you were just better off taking a different card and then trying not to get nabbed. This makes Breakout a little bit easier. Face your fears. This is the big travesty right here. Not travesty, I should say tragedy. I guess it's both. Adjusted to 2 temporary health from 3. Now, this doesn't seem like that big of a deal because for you melee builds out there, you know that if you're chopping away at hordes of zombies, this probably isn't going to matter that much. You're still going to be able to feel your health, but also I just don't think they needed to do this. Face Your Fears was a strong card for sure, but again, the game throws so much BS at you. I don't think the players needed to be nerfed in any capacity. So yeah, so Face Your Fears, 2 temporary health from 3. Then we got some stuff with the bandages. Ignore the Pain. I think Ignore the Pain, actually. I don't really know what this card does. I do think that restoring health instead of providing temporary health might be a bad thing, especially with trauma damage and all that. Mean Drunk. Melee damage adjusted to 60 from 75. That's 15%. That's not nothing. Meth Head. Stamina efficiency adjusted to 30% from 40%. Again, this is just stuff that we're just losing, losing because of this patch. Money Grubbers. This was one that people like to take for econ builds, and once again they made it so we're gonna get 25 less copper now, and you only get 3 bonus copper per stack instead of 5. That doesn't make sense to me because 3 doesn't go into 75. No, it does go into 75 evenly, but still. I'm good at math. Spiky Bits melee damage to 20% from 25%. Again, just Just another nerf on melee weapons, and then True Grit heal increased to 10 from 8. Again, just another nerf that I don't think is needed. Now, you could look at these cards and you could say that it's not that big of a deal. They're not that big of hits, like, and it's not gonna completely negate a build. And I agree. I don't think that these are enough. This is enough to completely like negate a build. But the one thing I think that ruins the melee build is coming up later, and we will get to it. But again, so I'm just gonna I want to restate right now that the reason I think that these hits hurt is because when you play on Nightmare, and I know that there's a group of elite players out there that can just speed run through Nightmare, and I find it kind of interesting that they didn't nerf any of the movement cards. Because I feel like the meta for cheesing Nightmare was to just run through everything, but instead they decided to nerf all of the melee cards. Not all the melee cards, but you know, the melee cards certainly got hit the most with like Face Your Fears and like Spiky Bits and all that, right? So that's curious. I wonder why they didn't do that. Who knows? Maybe they're out of touch. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to say that. But okay, so our cards get nerfed, right? And then we look at the Ridden updates, and then there's also some stuff here that you guys can read upon. Actually, I think this is a good change right here. I should make note of it. Players who are grabbed by a Crusher are immune to friendly fire damage while grabbed, and for 1.5 seconds after being released. I think that's good. Because it's not really fair that you're taking damage, you're being squeezed to death, and then you're going to take more damage like from your friends. Like, come on. Okay. Now, the Ridden updates, there's not many, but the Breaker got a huge buff. Basically, all of his attacks, like his leap, he can do more. His melee recovery, he can do more. And on top of that, he can summon the Swarm Cloud that he summons shrinks quicker, 75 seconds from 90, which, you know, there are some cases where you will get a Breaker and you won't have a lot of cards, so you won't be able to kill him that quickly, so this hurts. Horde Call reduced to 60 seconds from 120. That's literally cut in half. Like, ouch. Like, that's almost like guaranteed to have to fight a Horde if your team's not really on it, and if you don't have like great cards or weapons yet. And then a lot of his weak spot stuff is like, it's cut in half. Like, look, reduce the bonus damage for chest and leg weak spots to 500 from 1,000. That's literally half the damage you're doing by blowing those up. And it's not like these guys, I guess I should say, the Breakers were easy, I will say. I shouldn't say they're easy, but they're easier than like the other stuff. It's not really the Breaker that like will kill you. It's just him calling the Horde and all the other things that you have to deal with on top of the Breaker. So yeah, so the Breaker got a huge buff here. So he's a much harder boss. And the Ogre, they got a huge buff too. And the fact that his chest weak spot does 1/4 the damage that you get if you break it. And he also got more health too on top of that. So that's a big ouch. Reeker movement speed no longer slowed by bullets. This is something I really didn't notice, but I guess maybe I'll start to notice that from now on. So the Ridden updates. So the Ridden all got buffed, right? And then we got nerfed with the cards. Not all the Ridden, I should say. These guys, they only got buffs, I should say. I don't think there's a single nerf in here. Which, again, with a game like as hard as this, that has this like as much BS in it as it does, like with so few room for mistakes, I don't think that they should have been focusing on making the player weaker and then making the Ridden stronger, if that makes sense. I'll go on now. That's just kind of something I just wanted to add, that the Ridden did get indeed stronger. Then there's Swarm stuff. I don't play Swarm, so let's go. I want to keep going on to the melee stuff, because that's the main topic of the video, is what happened to the melee builds, right? So, weapon updates. If you look at the weapon updates, most of the weapons here, or most of the stuff that was affected was melee weapons. Like, they actually got stat changes, and it seems that they swing faster, but they do less damage. Like, we'll look at the bat, right? It is increased to the movement speed, which I assume this means like attack speed. Increased to 410 from 400, but they need 50% more damage to stumble Ridden. Now, the bat was the tech on killing the snitches. because you could just stun lock a snitch and then kill it, but you need the 50% more damage to even do that. Then you look at things like the axe. It swings faster, 395 from 380 for the movement speed, but then it also loses 15 damage. So that's just, and obviously these are all melee weapons, so if you're using a melee weapon, like you're gonna have to use one of these weapons right here, and it all seems like they got nerfed in some way, except I guess the machete, which is faster, so that's good. I don't think a lot of people really like. Actually, no, the machete was pretty good. So again, nerfing the melee build players a little bit here. I guess they swing faster, but they also do less damage. I would have preferred that they just made him swing faster, because it's like, do we really need to be giving the player like more hoops to jump through, like with this game, right? Because I don't want to say it's unbalanced, but there is like BS out there, right? I think we can all like agree on that. There's just some cards, there's some like moments where there's just no counterplay. There's like no way to recover from it, like as prepared as you are. It's just very unforgiving. So again, I don't think nerfing the player was necessary. Here's what I think will hurt melee builds the most, though. I don't think it was the cards. I don't think it was the weapons. I think it is going to be this next bug fix, up here, which I guess was a bug, but I think they should have kept it in personally. So before we do that, I want to go over this thing though. Fixed achievements and accomplishments not unlocking if you were dead at the end of the mission. This was the one thing that was preventing me from trying nightmare runs, because the thought of going through a nightmare run and then not having it unlocked because I like die at the end was not something that I was looking forward to at all. So I'm very glad that they did this, and I will certainly start doing nightmare runs. I hope I've already done some missions on nightmare. I hope that they count as being completed, because I did die on some of them. So I wonder if I have to go back and do them, or if it'll already count them for me. I don't know. I'll have to see when I log back onto the game. Fixing friendly fire for removing Jim's passive I think is also great too, because that was one of Jim's biggest weaknesses. Now I think that if you played Jim a little smarter and more reserved, like in the back, and you are really good at avoiding damage, which is hard to do in this game, but I think this helps Jim for sure, and it does make him a stronger character. But then we come to this one right here, and this is the one that I think like completely, I'm not going to say kill the melee build, but I think that this one hurts it the most. So it says fixed a bug where all trauma damage was blocked as long as you had 1 temporary health. If you were a melee build player, you would know that, or you should know that, if you have temporary health up, you don't take trauma damage, which I thought was like intentional, because temporary health is like being on pain meds, you know, so maybe you're not taking as much trauma on it. I guess it was a bug, and I guess they fixed it. And I think that this is gonna hurt. I think this hurts melee builds the most, because when you think of it in terms of going on nightmare, essentially what the melee person does is they stand in front of the group and they just swing their axe or a machete or whatever melee weapon they have, and they just have high resistance, and they build a lot of passive health, so they don't take the trauma damage, and they basically just stand there and they just mulch the horde as it runs at you, which was very, very strong, right? Like it's a very strong tactic, and I think that on nightmare, like, they're a great utility to have, because it basically means that if you can find a place to hole up, they will just never die, and they'll just keep tanking it. But what this will do is it will make it so that whenever you're done with that encounter, whenever whoever is running melee build is done with the encounter, they're not going to have as much health on them, because they're going to keep taking the trauma damage. So this is going to limit the amount of times that they could just keep like taking it like that. Because as their max health gets lower, when you start having to move from place to place, and they can't constantly restore their health like that, it's certainly going to help, and I think it's definitely going to be noticeable. And if you don't have like a good medic to just get rid of all that trauma, then they could be in trouble moving from place to place, which I guess is a trade-off for being so strong with the hordes. And again, it's with things like the fact that their bat doesn't stumble as much, and then also their weapons don't do as much damage. The Face Your Fears, which is pretty much the auto take card, which, you know, kind of led to this whole melee thing where they could just keep cutting things down, and they would just always have temporary health, and they wouldn't take trauma damage. that only heals 2 instead of 3, which, you know, it's a big deal. 2 instead of 3, that's like that's a third of the health regeneration you're getting back gone, you know. And I think this just goes back to like me thinking that I don't think that they needed to be nerfing the player. Like, these would be fine, I think, if they introduced a change to Blighted Ridden, you know, because I think everyone agrees that Blighted Ridden is just the worst card in the game, like from a balance standpoint and just like a BS standpoint, because it's like there's no counterplay to Blighted Ridden. You kill them and like there's just a puddle in front of you and you have to run through it and take damage. There's no counterplay to that, and it's not very fun. I have a few ideas actually for counterplay. Turtle Rock, hit me up for balance ideas. I won't go into them right now, but I wish that they. I feel like Turtle Rock saw maybe like the highest echelon of Back for Blood players, like with the Twitch rivals, things like Mustard and Destroyer and Big D and all of them, and they saw them blazing through this, and they're like, all right, we gotta make this a little harder on people like them, right? But I don't think that I wish that they changed some, like they fixed the balance on just some of like the specials and some of the like the jank that was in the game, you know. I don't want them to make the game easy, for sure. Like, I really don't want them to make the game easy. Like, I like that it's a hard game, but like I think you can't really deny that there are some parts of this game that's just like, how was I supposed to get out of this, or how was I supposed to play out of this? Like, it was just impossible, you know. So yeah, so unfortunately for all the melee build people, and I'm not hating on the game or anything. Like, I still think it's a really fun game and I'm still having a great time with it, but I just wish they had the presence of mind to maybe, like, you know, while nerfing the player, if they're gonna nerf that, at least fix some of the jank and the BS that's like working against us, you know. Because I think that, like, yeah, there's gonna be strong cards in the game for sure, and there's gonna be like stronger builds like the melee build that's just like, wow, this is just so useful, like so like integral to our survival. And if they're gonna nerf something like that, I think they gotta at least, like, you know, just throw us a bone and like go the other way. I don't think they can just nerf, or they can just buff all of the Ridden and then nerf us, you know, to make it harder on us. But I don't know, that's just me, that's my opinion. I guess I'm more of a casual player, huh? But yeah, so that is gonna be it for this video. I'm sorry, melee people. You will have a rougher time of it out there, but I'm still going to be playing the game. I'm still having a lot of fun with it. And I'm going to say right now at the end, I do stream on Twitch. I'm trying to grow my Twitch stream and all that, so I'm just going to throw it out there real quick. It's Nico_VZ, twitch.tv/Nico_VZ. I will put a link in the description below. Would appreciate a follow. I do stream a lot of Back for Blood there if you want to follow me, but yeah, so just got to throw that out there. We're going to end the video there. It's almost 20 minutes long, which is longer than I wanted it to be. But yeah, so a big takeaway from this video. Sorry, melee people. Breaker got a lot scarier, and Ogre is going to be a little harder to kill. But they did. It's not all bad, you know. They did include the quality of life improvements. Controller support is a little better, and the big thing that I really do like is that if you die, you don't have to worry about not unlocking things for Nightmare. Thank you. That was the big thing that I wanted out of this. So that's going to be it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.